Hello, my dear friends from Texas and all over. Um, Today I decided to not record on live because later we'll talk about it. But tomorrow we're going to have the Memorial Day in Israel, so things are pretty hectic by time. Um so I prefer to do it like this. Um, Maybe we'll start a little bit. Okay, for those who don't remember, my name is Adiel. I'm a tour guide here in Israel. I live in a beautiful area named Kavem, which is right on the area of Jerusalem. And so normally what we do, we're giving some updates from Israel, and then later I give some few words about the Torah portion, which is the current chapters that being read on the synagogue, and then we're ending up with the side of the day. Um, all right, so updates. As I said last previous week, about 30% of the Israel market went back to work. It's feel like going back again to the street. It's feel like things are getting a little bit more into routine. Even though trying to read the news, there is nothing beside the corona. It's all about dealing with that. Um, Hopefully now there is an agreement between the different parties, political parties. So it seemed like they're going to have an agreement, and eventually we'll be able to build a government after more than 9 months that we don't have one, and that might help with the stability in the situation that we are. But yeah, basically we're in about that, the returning to the economy market. It's pretty much confusing because there are still many people who are affected with this epidemic, and yet it feel like we're going back to routine. But then again, it's like semi-routine, and people have the fear that maybe in a few weeks we have to go back to quarantine. So these are pretty much confusing time. Hopefully that with the heat and the summertime, maybe it will be also stand on our side against this epidemic, but we'll have to wait and see. We'll try to keep our spirit elevated, stay positive, and this is where we're standing at now these days in Jerusalem and Israel overall. About the Torah portion, so we're still holding the book. We're still in the book of Leviticus. Um, as I keep saying all the time, Leviticus is a really technical, and it's dealing with a lot of details about sacrification, and it's not exactly the book which more about the storyteller. And yet, because of this opportunity that I'm reading it more profoundly, because I want to pass the word for you, I'm discovering a lot of new things which are really relevant to the Jewish Judaism and philosophy and our relevant life. So in the last Shabbat, they were reading chapters 12 to 16, and there were two interesting points that I find it interesting. Okay, so basically the main theme was about different kind of disease and impurity that people experiencing on their body, and what do they have to do in order to become like pure again. And basically it's deal with those a lot of details. It's not really appealing to read, not really fun to read. The images are not that attractive. uh, and it's those kind it's from those kind of verses which normally people kind of trying not to go really deep into. But two interesting point that I find was, one was dealing about the so woman after pregnant is considered to be impure for about 7 days in case she's having birth for a boy, and 2 weeks for a girl. And then there was a question: how come a woman, which, I mean, this is like such a crucial moment and very spiritual and holy, woman taking birth, how come she's considered to be impure after? And then it's kind of give us the essence about Judaism aspect about about impurity and purity. So apparently, life is representing the purity state, and death is the one which represent the impurity, right? Now the woman at that point, of course, when she is pregnant, she's bringing life, but once the life are coming outside of her body, so those kind of great power is leaving her. So this represent to some extent death, and that is why later she has to be impure for about 7 days in case she has a boy, and 14 days in case she has girl. And then some woman, can ask. Normally, women ask that, hey, but how come it's she has to wait more in case we're talking about girl? What is that? Some kind of discrimination? So it's more about that the girl, they're bringing the life into the world. So if woman having birth for a girl, it's mean that it's like double life are leaving her, because a girl in the future, hopefully, she's gonna bring also life and birth, and that is why the woman will be have to wait a little bit longer in order to go back and into purity state. Um, Another thing which I like about it is that which also talk about the state of the woman is that um, women considered to be like really spiritual, really elevate spiritual, and that is because of the fact that she's bringing life. So women and Adam, like Adam and Eve, were deported from heaven, right? But the woman, to some extent, she still deserved to be in that highly placed, because she's bringing life to the world, and life is like purity, and that is why, by the way, on the practical level, there are many Jewish commandments which a woman is basically she doesn't have to follow them. Whatever is related to time, like a commandment which been taking place on time, certain time. So the woman is not necessarily have to make them. Like for example, a woman doesn't have to pray like 3 times a day like the man do, or she doesn't have to wear tzitzit, which are the strings that coming out from the clothes. Normally, you see it when you're visiting here in Israel, and you see the ultra Orthodox wearing them. So this is something they only need to wear during day. And again, woman is not obliged to do anything which related to the time frame, and that is because uh, um, she's kind of on a superior level than the pragmatical life aspect. So I find it pretty interesting. Another thing which I found interesting in the by the way, the chapter about the woman, dealing with about the woman, is chapter 12, Leviticus, and then later on chapter 14, it's been talked about the method how people can be redeem themselves and become like pure again. And it sounds pretty paganic. Like for example, it's been mentioned that there is a need to bring like 2 birds, and one of them is being sacrificed. The other one is being kind of baptized in the blood of the first blood bird, and then after he's being released to free again. And and it's kind of bring a question, rise up a question, um, like Judaism is, it's such a highly spiritual, and so how come so many chapters are dealing with something which look almost seems to be almost paganic, right? Like sacrifictions, blood, and etc. Um, and and I think the main idea about it, we already mentioned it, is that when someone is doing an act in order to do some kind of repent, so of course, obviously, it's very important to do it here in the heart, but also doing something which is like really pragmatic, something which take for realization. So the act itself help the person to like contemplate, okay, and to look at it from the side, and then by doing so, it's like very symbolic. And as you know, life is all about symbols. So someone standing and see like this kind of symbolism, it helps him to like contemplate again, and then back again to the state of purity again. Now, another thing which is interesting, and it's about dealing about the same point, is okay. So those chapters are really going deep into the whole technical level of sacrification and disease and infections, and and the question is why. I mean, we can think that basically being on a spiritual level, it's more about, I don't know, like sitting in a synagogue, learning the Torah, and like being up there. So this is it. Basically, the main idea is that this is what Judaism is about. Judaism is not dichotomy. It's not separate between the materialism and the spiritual level. They're like combined together, and everything is like higher level and eventually come from God. So the main idea, according to the Kabbalah, which is a mystical aspect, is that if we are in a level, if we are in a present reality which we cannot really contain, it's like too high for us. So there is a connection between the spiritual and the body, and our body might be signing to us that we're kind of crossing the line, and that is why it might has this kind of like marks on the skin and disease and etc. But basically, the body is kind of speaking with us, the body and the spirit, and by that we can like elevate ourselves again on the spiritual level. So I find it pretty interesting, because we can compare it to different kind of religious like Buddhism and etc. And we can tell that only by reading the chapters of the Torah, uh, uh, we can realize like the practical aspect of life, which all coming from the idea of the Judaism. Um, so this is about that. Um, Side of the day. Okay, so far we have, I'm forgetting to show the sign, but we have Israel today and already the Torah portion, and now side of the day. So side of the day. Um, so I don't know if some of you know, but in 2 days, well, actually tomorrow, tomorrow is Monday in Israel, and we're going to have the Memorial Day evening, and then the day after, the following day, will be the day itself, and then the day after will be the Independence Day. And so I was thinking about a site which related to these kind of events, um, and maybe a few words about the Memorial Day. So tomorrow, normally, okay, when we don't have quarantine, people are gathering together in the evening time. There are ceremonies all over the country, and then there is siren in the evening, so everyone's standing still and like contemplating with the people who died. More than 20,000 people who died from the beginning, from the early stages of the state of Israel. The day after, a lot of people going and visiting the cemeteries. Most of the people in Israel are related in one way or another to someone who died in the military or in terror incident. And then again, there is another siren. And then during the day, basically, it's kind of a mourning day. Like people are mourning and they're like contemplating and more gathering to themselves. And then one of the most distinguished gap that we have is that on the evening time of the Memorial Day, so it start the Independence Day, like right after, and it's like very symbolic that here in Israel, from day one, we already had war, but life kept going on. So that's the main idea also of the adjacent on time, that the Independence Days, they come right after. So on one day, people are still grieving their like their dears, and the day after, everyone like going out and celebrating and meeting with their families. Obviously, this year it will be different um, because we cannot do because of the quarantine. Um, but So me personally, I'm going to add YouTube, which I'm going to talk about my personal experience. It's about 30 minutes, and I'm going to tell about my brother, Gil Shalabi, who died in the 1997 on the helicopter disaster. So you can learn from my first view about how it's like to lose someone here in Israel, someone who died as a soldier. So I'll send another link. Um, But the side of the days that I wanted to talk about is related to all that. The name is Mount Herzel. Let's see if you'll be able to. All right. So over here you can see tombs on Mount Herzel, and then on the higher part, you see the pillow on the tomb. That's how it's called. The pillow is a stone which dedicated to a soldier who died, and normally the text is it's like been written on pattern. It's mentioned the name of the soldier, the age that he passed away, and the cause of his death. We'll be back to specifically the name that we mentioned here, Hannah Senesh. She is a very famous character. Over here we can see a lot of tombs standing next to each other. The beautiful part about Mount Herzl is that all the soldier are be able to being buried there, have the right to be buried there, but most of the families obviously prefer that their soldier be buried in the local cemetery, not in the national one. Mount Herzl is a national cemetery. It's kind of pretty much the same as West Point in the United States, right? If that's how it's called. And in Mount Herzl, there are more than 550 graves and tombs of soldiers who died from the whole periods of times in Israel, in the whole different wars. And also there are some parts over there of the leader of the nation, the prime ministers and the presidents, and Herzl himself, who is considered to be like the visionary and the prophet of the state of Israel and the leader of the Zionist movement. His tomb looked like this. 1 second. All right. So his tomb, I hope you'll be able to see it from the screen, but right. So this is a tomb of Herzl. It's looked like tefillin. Tefillin is what the Jewish people, like the observant, they're putting every day on their head and on their arm also, and it's symbolizing the connection between the believer and God. So the tomb of Herzl, even though he was not religious, yet he was the one who contributed to the returning to the state of Israel. So his tomb is being designed as this kind of tefillin. The last thing I wanted to end with, I already mentioned Hannah Senesh, right? So Hannah Senesh used to be a parachute who died on the Second World War. She came to Israel. She immigrated from Hungary, and she came here. She made Aliyah. She stayed here for a couple of years, and then when the war erupted, so she was sent alongside then more than 20 parachuters in order to be. She's sent to the area of Europe, and the main idea was to create connection between the local communities and partisans and the British military. Unfortunately, she was caught by the Nazis. She was tortured to death. The saying is that even all the way to her death, she was not willing to give up on the secrets that she were keeping. And so she considered to be like a very symbolic woman. I'm going to write her name after, but basically it's Hannah Senesh, so you can read about her. She was also a poetry, and one of her songs is called My Lord, My God, My God. It's talk about basically the beautiful of in the nature that been created by God. And every Memorial Day, it's kind of, it's on the playlist. You can hear this song all over. And after she died by the Nazis, this song became like very, very famous. So it says, my God, I pray that these things never end. The sand and the sea, the rustle of the water, lighting of the heavens, the prayer of man. All right, so before I'll play this song, because as you know, I like to entertain myself as well, and that's why I'm playing it. But before I play it, Uh, Please feel free to like share as many as you can, as much as you can, the link. Give more people the opportunity to learn about what's happening these days in Israel. I have to admit that every week there are more and more sharing and engagement, and it's amazing to see how this project is keep keep growing. It's give I have to admit it's make me busy as well, and it keep me going, so it's fun for me. But it's also fill me with a lot of gratefulness that I know that more and more people of you are watching it, and every time there are more new people, and the main idea is to expand ourselves, and that people can learn about what's happening in Israel these days, but also can learn about the content of Judaism, and about different sites that we have in this special unique place. So if you enjoyed from what you saw, please do like, share is even better, and also try to share it with different kind of congregation. In Hebrew we have a verse, "Berov am hadrat melech," which mean um, uh, where as many people as they are, so the royalty is being spread. So berov hadrat melech, and as I said, we're gonna end up with the lyrics of Hannah Senesh. So in Hebrew it's Eli Eli שלא ייגמר לעולם, החול והים, רשרו של המים, ברק השמיים, תפילת האדם. שלא ייגמר לעולם, החול והים, רשרו של המים, ברק השמיים, תפילת האדם, חול והים, רשרו של המים, ברק השמיים, תפילת האדם. אלי, אלי, שלא ייגמר לעולם, החול והים, רשרו של המים, ברק השמיים, תפילת האדם, החול והים, רשרו של המים, ברק השמיים, תפילת האדם. להתראות and shalom, and meet you up next week. Goodbye, my friends.